Hello, my name is Ákos. Let me share some best practices how to create execution plans which are not only going to be beautiful but also going to be followed by project teams. So, effective strategies for teams to follow your execution plan. Let me start with the background story. We used to be BIM managers ourselves as well, created lots of execution plans in the past 15 years or so, and we realized that in many cases these execution plans were not followed, not read, and were not put in action. So that's when we realized we have to do it somehow differently. We have to come up with a new process in order to make sure that these execution plans are followed in order to have successful execution in the end. We are now in a lucky position that we have over 75,000 users on a global scale. So we are in daily contact with BIM managers, understanding their challenges, hearing from their problems that they are facing on a daily basis, and fine-tuning the processes that we come up in the past 15 years, bringing a solution that is going to result execution plans which are being followed. So to start with the problems that we see and identify the three main areas that can cause problems, that's what you can see on the screen now. So first of all, lack of clear targets. If we don't know why we are doing BIM, of course, it's really hard to hit that target. BIM execution plans in some cases are being just ignored. They are not enforced, they are not contractual, therefore they are not going to be followed. Then, because we are talking about a collaborative environment, we are talking about lots of teams that we have to work with or work together. We cannot really expect that each and every team would be on the same level of BIM adoption, in the same path or on same stage of their BIM journey. Therefore, the skill sets are just not going to be aligned. If we see these problems or if these problems ring a bell, then we have solutions for them as well. So when the targets are not clear, we have to make sure that we are communicating with our teams much more. We are communicating with our teams more closely, and we are engaging them in the creation of our execution plan, which also means that we have different aspects incorporated into our execution plan. But because if everyone or each and every team can give us feedback on our execution plans, then the likeliness, because of this contribution, the likeliness of following the execution plans is much higher. It has to be contracted. I will come back to that topic as well, and it's really important that BIM is not just a line item in a certain contract. We have to have contracted requirements and detailed understanding of what we have to deliver. And then if the skill sets are different, then we have to make sure that we are simplifying the processes enough that each and every team member and each and every team would understand what they have to deliver, and therefore they can meet their targets. Let's unfold these a little bit further and talk about the enhanced teamwork for a second. So again, setting clear expectations is really, really important. We even have a motto that we are using in these cases. So the right BIM at the right time by the right people for the right reasons. Who is doing what at a certain point in time? It has to be clarified. And then once these clear expectations are set, we have to have an approval workflow. So the team members, again, the different teams can contribute how we are going to do the execution. So they really understand down to the details what the requirements are and how we are going to deliver those requirements. Then we have to structure the data. You have to work with structured data, and traditionally BIM execution plans are not structured data. Traditionally BIM execution plans are a huge document, typically a copy and paste of previous execution plans, of course, meaning lots of non-project related outdated information from other projects. And again, it's a long document that we create. It takes a long time to create it. It takes a long time to send it out and expect feedback on that. It is not structured. We are engineers, so we love structured data. We love using Excel sheets, for example. So make sure that we are breaking down the data into digestible, easy to understand pieces of information and make it available to the different teams as early as possible. So you don't have to wait for the feedback till the entire traditional creation of creation of documents process goes through, but you have early feedback directing you to the right direction. Then it has to be contracted, full stop. Again, BIM is not just a line item in a contract. It's not an addendum. You have to have contracted requirements. Once you understand who is responsible for what, create targeted agreements with different stakeholders, merge your exchange information requirements, your organizational exchange requirements, all the necessary documents with your responsibility matrices to make sure that each and every stakeholder exactly understand why we are doing the project, what are the principles of delivering the project, and also what are their daily tasks pretty much, or if not daily, but what are their responsibilities that they have to meet. Gain executive support. So it means that you have to have the right resources allocated for the BIM execution. In some cases, it probably also means that you have to educate the executives on not only on the value of the deliverables, but also the process how to get there. Therefore, you want to invite them into the creation of the execution plan. You want to invite them into a visual environment that helps them understanding what we are doing and why we are doing them. So again, BIM has to be contracted requirements. And make it as easy as possible to understand. So we are talking about complex processes, but visualize it and make it easily understandable for all the stakeholders, regardless of their skill set. So first of all, let's define the main stages. Let it be early design, let it be design, pre-construction, construction, handover, facilities management, whatever stage we are at, we are going to manage information. And we have to identify what these stages are, what these purposes, what these use cases are, because for each and every stage, we might need different information. We have to plan the components. So if we talk about building information modeling, of course, we immediately visualize models. And of course, models are broken down into components, so we have to understand what components we are expecting. But not only modeling elements, but also what are those deliverables, what are those tasks that we have to take care of, and we have to put it into our plans. And once we have these two main components, the stages and our plan of deliverables, we have to specify the requirements. Because again, for each and every stage, we might need the same components in a different way. If you are doing a quantification, if you are doing cost calculations or a coordination, you need different information. If you are doing field layout or handing it over for facilities management, you need different information. And you have to communicate that. And make sure that you are not requesting too much, because too much is as bad as too little. So having information early enough or too early is going to result in wasted efforts pretty much. Define responsibilities, knowing who is responsible for a certain scope at a certain point in time, but equally important to define the shift of responsibilities as well, avoiding overlapping responsibilities and avoiding the problem of duplicates in the models, to put it simple, which of course doesn't help you when you want to do quantification or coordination. Having similar but not identical elements is just going to ruin all these efforts. And then make it visual, make it easy to understand for each and every project stakeholder, regardless of their level of BIM implementation. Make it easy to understand even those who are decision makers, to your executives who are not necessarily working with BIM on a daily basis. So once we get here, then we have a plan in place. Let's create contracts. Let's sign using paper documents, using ink and paper, or using electronic signatures to have targeted documents and targeted agreements with each and every team. But then let's jump into the execution. When we are in the execution, as a BIM manager, what you really want to do is understanding how the project is developing, where the project is at a certain point in time, but requesting status reports on a weekly basis and starting the next week to understand where we are is not at all proactive. So we have to make it a little bit more proactive, giving the autonomous progress tracking option to your teams so they can report their own statuses automatically to you, having real-time information about the completion of the tasks and the progression of your project, which eventually means that you have a management overview at a glance on your project. When it comes to BIM, we are talking about models. And if we are talking about models, we have to understand if the modeled content, if the BIM received meets the requirements that you set in the contracting phase. In order to do that, again, give access to automated model checking tools to your teams so they can perform autonomous model checking. In that case, before you receive the model, you can make sure that it passes already a number of quality gates. It passes the quality assurance processes of your suppliers. Therefore, you will meet much higher quality models, which increased quality means that you can reduce the back and forth communications and issue checking with your teams. Last but not least, we are heading to an era when we are just going to seamlessly exchange data, but we are not there yet. we do exchange files today. And in order to make sure that teams are understanding what they send and what they receive, we have to have a standard naming convention. ISO 19650 also talks about naming conventions, but one thing we have to make sure that this is a proactive process. This is something that actually helps our project and not an administration burden on the teams. So why don't we let the computer take care of naming your files based on metadata that your files have. Let it assemble your naming convention automatically, so you don't even have to worry about quality checking. It just eliminates the potential human errors from the processes. Also, we don't want to have a long list of deliverables just as a list of unstructured data again. Make sure that deliverables are being linked to tasks, so you can not only follow the task completions, but you can also follow whether the right deliverables were sent, the right deliverables were created at a certain point in time. So again, it allows you to track progression and completions in real time. So let's see how we can solve it. When it comes to creation of collaborative agreements, again, the main focus is not to have a long document, which is a copy and paste of other documents, but to really have targeted agreements with your teams, making sure that you are breaking down this unstructured data into easy to understand and easy to manage document sections. And you can release these document sections as they become available. You don't have to wait till you assemble 30 pages, but as soon as these documents become available, you can invite your collaborators. They can give you feedback, which means that we fully all understand why we are doing BIM and how we are going to reach our targets on a given project. The involvement of the teams and having these approval workflows and having the approval from each and every team would also mean that the buy-in into this project execution is much, much, much higher. Therefore, the plan is going to be followed. Make it dynamic, make it available for each and every team member on your project at any point in time. When it comes to understanding who is doing what at a certain point in time, the right BIM at the right time by the right people for the right reasons, we have to identify the BIM use cases, we have to identify the components and deliverables, and in this matrix, we can easily communicate and visually communicate what is requested from the teams. We can also communicate who is responsible for the deliverables at a certain point in time. And on these information containers, we can start discussing, of course, geometry, because that's a topic, but also information requirements. So information requirements which eventually in our BIM world are going to be translated into modeling properties. That's something to be communicated and easily understood in a visual interface. Again, helping also your executives understanding what we are doing, how we are doing that, and why we are doing that. Last but not least, receiving models is a beautiful thing. It means that we have progress on the project, but are those models aligned with your plan? That's a big question. And traditionally, it used to be taking a lot of time to check in any kind of application, setting up rule sets, setting up filters to understand that the model created meets the requirements. Now we can automate it and make it autonomous. Automated model checking means that the models can automatically be checked against the contractual requirements, and with a very simple visual feedback, you would understand if they meet the requirements or not. Green means good, green means good, other colors mean not that good. But you can make it autonomous as well. So giving this same technology to your suppliers, they can perform the quality check. So you as the receiving BIM manager, you wouldn't even have to worry about bad quality models because it is already kind of passing a number of automated checking before the model gets to you. Last but not least, let's talk about ISO 19650 for a second as well. A beautiful standard released a couple of years ago that will help us AEC professionals to work to the same direction together. Implementing the standard might be a little bit overwhelming sometimes, so what we are also doing is making sure that if you are using Planoly, you can stay aligned with the standard in a simplified way. So, and Planoly is not only supporting the standard as a framework, but having templates in the application. You see on the screen OIR, PIR, EIR, BEP, risk, mobilization plan, and so on and so on. It allows you, again, to stay aligned with ISO 19650 and gives you a kickstart to start following the ISO 19650 processes. Also important to mention, I guess, in this presentation that it has been translated to over 20 different languages. about a year ago, we had a beautiful experiment and a beautiful team, over 25 people and experts from all around the Arabic world, to contribute and create these templates together for the Arabic BIM community. So please take a look. And if you take a look, make sure that you visit plannerly.com. That's where you can learn about our ISO 19650 approach, but you can read great case studies and other learning material that you will find in our training or BIM blogs sections. So make sure to follow us on our website, but also in social media. Look for the hashtag SmartLeanBIM, hashtag Plannerly or PlannerlyAC on the different channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, and so on, to find us and start chatting with us. If you want to start chatting with us, let's do it today. So we have a booth, a digital booth on this event. We would love to welcome you there and continue our discussion over there. Thank you for your attention.